Hello, Packers fans. Welcome into PackersNews.com. I'm Kassidy Hill, joined by Tom Silverstein. Tom, it's been a while since you've been on one of these. Welcome back.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Granted, it is the off season, so things get a little bit crazier. It slows down in some ways, it speeds up in others. I know the past week or so for you has been nuts. Have you just been buried in a hole with information on Packers special teams and this new coaching hire?
Yeah, it's been quite a week of trying to uncover exactly what was going on. Special teams is a tight community within the NFL, and a lot of those coaches communicate with each other. There wasn't a lot of that going on with uh, Rich Bisaccia. He's a pretty established guy, been around. I mean, he was interviewed twice for head coaching jobs this offseason. And, uh, there was just the opportunity for the Packers to reach out to him. And he went for what was probably the best offer on the table.
First of all, Rick Bisaccia, is that how you say it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I've only been reading it. I've yet to figure out how to say it, and I was stumbling all over that C in there. So glad we established that. Rick Bisaccia. As you said, the best offer on the table. What is it about this offer that made it the best offer? And correct me if I'm wrong, he was also hoping to get interviewed for the Raiders head coach position. Is that correct?
He did interview for
Okay.
the Raiders head coaching position and lost out to Josh McDaniel. So, yeah, he was looking for a head coaching job. He interviewed with Jacksonville as well, and but did not get any offers to be a head coach. He had been the interim coach for Las Vegas since October 11th when John Gruden resigned, and had a 7-5 record and got them to the playoffs and was really hailed
Mm-hmm.
pretty highly by the players in Las Vegas. They really have a high opinion of him. It's kind of a player's coach. And so I think he had a chance to land a job as a special teams coordinator. And I think probably what really convinced him was I think the Packers offered him a ton of money. I think they were serious this time, and they were not going to lose out to their guy like they had 3 years ago with Darren Rizzi when they weren't as aggressive and wound up losing him. So I think they may have made Bisaccia the highest paid special teams coach in the NFL. We won't know that for sure. I don't know that for sure, but that has been the talk in the special teams community that
Mm-hmm.
he's going to be getting in there around $2 million a year.
That's what I was about to ask. I know you put it in the ballpark of 2 million in your reporting. Is he worth that much?
Um, that's a good question. Well, you're worth as much as somebody is willing to pay,
That's a very good point.
and he had the luxury of being one of only really two uh, quality special teams guys who was available at the time that LaFleur started looking. It was him and Joe Judge, the former New York Giants coach,
Mm-hmm.
who has since gone back to the Patriots where he was a coach. So Bisaccia was the best guy on the market. And, sometimes you have to pay more to get that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Is he worth 2 million? I guess we'll find out. But at the least, he's going to stabilize their special teams. I mean, this is a guy who's been in coaching for 30 years. And I mean, he's coached special teams, been a special teams coordinator in the NFL for 20 years. So if he doesn't know what he's doing, he certainly wouldn't have lasted 20 years.
So he doesn't know what he's doing. He's faking it well, which is really, he knows what he's doing then. He knows enough to fake it. If you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the comments. We're going to have a few up here for Spoon. Kind of focusing on special teams today. As we said, Packers hire officially Rick Bisaccia as the new special teams coach. This has been in the works for the past week or so now, and it is official. Kind of just breaking down what it means. Rebecca asked, Packers magically open up cap space for a good special teams player. If the Packers magically open up cap space for a good special teams player, kick return, punt return, kicker, punter, or coverage, which do you pick? So if you're Rick Bisaccia, Spoon, and you're coming in here and you're saying, okay, if you're going to let me run this, I need to run it my way. Here's what I need. Who do you ask for first?
I would ask for a long snapper first. More than anything, he's got to get that position straightened out because there's no kicking game without a good long snapper. And you need a guy who's been around or has established himself as a consistent player, and they haven't had that. This organization for a long time had established long snappers. I mean, going back to the 90s, it was Rob Davis, and then it went to Brett Good. These guys were flawless. And then all of a sudden, they found out for, the past 3 years what it's like not to have that kind of guy. So that's a priority. They're going to have to go out and sign somebody or draft somebody who can come in and do that right away. Then after that, they need to improve the run game or the return game. I think they're going to have to find somebody in the draft who does that. And it may have to be just a guy they picked to be a returner instead of trying to make a wide receiver who did some returning or a running back who did some returning in college. Maybe go for a specialist.
Mm-hmm. Spoon, you and I have talked about this offseason, some of the scuttlebutt being the Packers' hesitancy to bring in veteran free agents in some of those positions, like long snapper, punter, and returner. Do you think that might be one of those things where they would have to bite the bullet and do that? And even if it does mean paying more for a vet minimum, or is that something that you can replenish in the draft, which it seems to be the track they tried to take last year?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can do it in the draft. It's probably you could probably do it through free agency, and you shouldn't have to pay a lot of money for a guy who's just a returner. Now, those guys aren't real easy to find, but if you've got a good special teams coach who knows what he wants and can identify it, I don't think the Packers ever really gave Maurice Drayton anybody that he could use. I mean, I think they really cheaped out, and the return position was a weakness. And they thought Amari Rodgers could do it, and he couldn't. And they guessed wrong, and they never fixed it. I think with a guy like Bisaccia, the one thing, if I'm him and I sign that deal, I don't care how much it's worth. I want some kind of assurance that you're going to listen to me. Right. So if I tell you that this guy can't long snap or this guy is not a good enough returner, you need to go out and get another returner. Or if I need this guy up for this playoff game, or else we're going to have a weakness in our field goal block, then you got to listen to him. So it doesn't help for them to hire him unless they listen to him. And I think he'll definitely have some strong opinions on returners.
I'm glad you said that. And guys, I promise we're going to get to some more of your questions here in just a minute. But that's something I wanted to focus on, is if they're going to hire him, they need to listen to him. There has notoriously been sort of a disconnect between the front office and the coaching staff as far as, especially when it comes to special teams. So is that something that if you were Bisaccia, you would sort of almost make, like you said, I wouldn't sign the deal unless you know that they're going to listen to you. Is that something that you think the front office realizes as well? Like, hey, whatever we had been trying to do is not going to work. And definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over. And you think that the front office where it is now would listen to Bisaccia?
It's the front office and it's LaFleur. I mean, LaFleur and his staff if he says, I need this guy for special teams on game day, and that means LaFleur's going to have one less receiver or running back or some other position, then he's got to listen to Bisaccia. He has to treat special teams just equally as offense and defense. And I think he's been guilty of not doing that. I think Gutekunst has not communicated well with the special teams coach on what he needs. They made the switch from Hunter Bradley to Steve Wordle, and I don't think Maurice Drayton had much of a say in that. And now, when you've got a coach of this experience, you got to work with him and say, if we like this guy, what do you think? And if they don't do that, then it's a waste of bringing him in.
That's a very good point. And I had mentioned having some of this, so let's look at it real quick. This circled right here, this play to me kind of sums up everything that you just said was an issue. This is the blocked punt versus the 49ers that was returned for a touchdown. The guy that circled is Henry Black. And you said this when it happened, Spoon. You said the long snapper never got any help. He's supposed to come over, given this front from the 49ers, correct me if I'm wrong, he's supposed to come over and help the long snapper block Jordan Willis right here. Look right there. Well, there's 36 blocking him, and there's 41 heading downfield. Is that not kind of break down the issue in coaching fundamentals and not having the right players there to make the right plays, if that makes sense?
Well, I don't know for sure that was Henry Black's fault. I know that Wordle got blown off the line of scrimmage, and that shouldn't happen. He's got to give some resistance, even if he's supposed to have some help. Right. That guy got by him so quickly that I don't even know that Henry Black could have
helped
made that block. It was so one-sided. So, for one, you got to make sure your long snapper is able to make that block. And, Wordle is a smaller guy. And, Hunter Bradley was a much bigger, more physical guy, but they decided that, he had this hitch in his snap, and personnel decided they wanted someone else. So I don't know how much Henry Black is responsible, but I do know that that long snapper is at least got to slow that guy down.
And that's a good point. And that's why I kind of wanted to bring it up too, to point out that it's Henry Black could have been there to help, but he needed to be there to help because of the long snapper situation. So it's like, if you had a different long snapper in there, would you have had to bring Henry Black over to help? And so it's a mess from beginning to end, and it seems like none of the pillars are there to hold it up. So how much can Rick Bisaccia help? I guess we'll find out. There have been some other questions hopped in, so let's get to these a little bit. Atomic Hand says, does this mean we have an inside track to get Derek Carr in an AR trade? Is Rick Bisaccia going to have enough pull to bring Derek Carr over to Green Bay if need be?
No, I don't think it has anything to do with that at all. That if that is a deal, I mean, that deal doesn't really help the Packers because from a salary cap standpoint, Carr costs, I forgot what his cap number is, but it's high. And it doesn't help them for this year. Now it'd help him the next year because he's in the final year of his contract, and maybe they could restructure his deal. But I don't think, the only way it could do it is if, Carr was really unhappy about going to Green Bay and, I don't know, decided he was going to hold out or something. And maybe Bisaccia would convince him that this is a good place for him to be. So if the Raiders trade him, I mean, he's got no alternative but to go play for the team. So I don't think it has any impact whatsoever.
Just because you did ask for the number, Derek Carr's 2022 base salary is $19 million.
What's his cap number?
His cap number is 19.8, if I'm reading that right.
Okay. So
Yeah,
it's about
19.8. So a decent amount, close to 20 million.
yeah,
20
it's not
million.
too bad. They
Yeah,
could live with that. But I don't know if who knows.
right. Uh, this is an interesting comment. Opening the wallet for Bisaccia makes me think they're committed to another season with Rodgers. Do you agree? Sign
Um
of them going all in again?
maybe it could be that you know, I just don't buy the whole thing that if they sign Rodgers that they're going to make this run again to the Super Bowl because I don't know whether they're going to have enough of a team to do it. Uh, he's either way, he's going to cost them $30 million against the cap. And then if they've got him, they're going to want Devontae Adams. And if they sign the two of them, I don't see how they can be as talented as they were a year ago because they're going to lose some people.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I don't know if it had anything to do with the Rodgers thing. I think it had something to do with, all right, we blew special teams 3 years ago when we should have hired Rizzy. It's been a disaster since. Let's just get that fixed up.
Yeah.
Because let's say you do go with Jordan Love, you need to have two of your other units be really good to make
Right.
up for what you lose from not having Rodgers. So you could make the argument that this was done because they're going to get rid of Rodgers so that they have two units that can make up for his loss.
Interesting. I like that. Or it's an interesting thought. I'm going to combine a couple of questions here for you, Spoon. Jim asked to get under the cap. Who is your best guess will be leaving the Packers? That can be sort of broad, but let's keep focused on special teams. Rebecca says, we used to have some core special teams players: Jared Bush, Jeff Janis, Alan Rosem, Travis Jersey. Do you think they devote a couple of roster spots to special teams now? And then Reva asks as well, what changes in personnel? So I'm going to combine all three of those questions. What sort of changes do you think they make in personnel to, one, get under the cap space, just Mason Crosby become a hit, and what changes do they make to move forward, clearly devoting more resources to special teams?
Well, I mean, nothing happens until they figure out what is going on with Rodgers. So it's once they know where they are with Rodgers, then it becomes a little clearer as to what they'll do with their roster. If they trade him and are going with Jordan Love, then they've got room to probably keep everybody and possibly sign Devontae Adams. So, uh, I don't think they have to do a ton of cutting if they get rid of Rodgers. Now, if they keep him, then they've got to start thinking about losing some guys. Randall Cobb, that's 6.8 million in cap space. Mercedes Lewis, that's almost 2.5 million. Crosby's, I think, 3 million, something like that. Those are three moves that they'll have to make. Another one is Za'Darius Smith. They can pick up 15 million there. It just really depends on Rodgers. Everything kind of plays off of that as to who they have to get rid of or who they can keep.
And with that in mind, Linda asked just for an update on a soft deadline for Rodgers' decision being made. I know he has said the franchise tag deadline is sort of his deadline as well. Do you think that that's still the case, or would we see a decision sooner or later?
I think the deadline is March 16th, which is the start of free agency and the day that the Packers have to be under the salary cap. So, I think they would like to have that done before then, and maybe right around that time the franchise tag is due. I'm not sure if he's wondering, okay, I'll make a decision once I see what happens to Devontae Adams.
Uh-huh.
but he should assume they're going to put the franchise tag on him. They're going to do whatever they can to keep him. And he's got to make his decision, I think, independently on what he wants to do. Just like Davante Adams can't make his decision based on where Rodgers is going to go, because there's too many circumstances that could change, and you may wind up thinking you're going to go somewhere with Rodgers, and then boom, he stays in Green Bay and you go somewhere else, or vice versa.
Yeah.
He'll make his own decision on that. But I do think, end of February is probably when we'll know.
Wouldn't it be nice if, so last year when he won MVP, that's when he dropped the little nugget that he was engaged. Wouldn't it be nice if tomorrow night, when he presumably wins MVP again, if in his speech he lets everyone know his decision and just gets it out of the way early?
Yeah, that would be nice for him to say, I'm not coming back, or I don't want to come back, or I've agreed to a contract extension, one or the other. I don't think he's in that position yet, but it sure would be nice.
Yeah. If you're hearing our request, Rodgers, go ahead and get it out of the way. Last question here. It drops back to special teams, and I think it's a good one to point out. Some punt returners seem to just catch smoothly and go, even if they aren't burners. Is it hard to find players like that? Spoon, before you answer, the other day when I was doing a Facebook Live with Pete, someone said, just give me someone like Tyreek Hill or Deebo Samuel on special teams. I was like, if only you could just go out and find those guys. But I know you've mentioned that before about Amari Rodgers not catching it in stride. Is that something that can be coached, or is that just an innate something in a guy and you have to find someone that can do it, like Rebecca asked?
I think it's kind of innate. I mean, a guy can improve, but you can't, I don't think you can improve a guy's hands. You can improve his technique, but a guy who's just got great hands, and I'll always go back to, because I'll not, always remember Mike Holmgren talking about this with Desmond Howard. And the reason he was such a good returner was because he caught the ball so confidently that he was on the move the second the ball hit his hands, because it was never going to be he didn't have to bobble it, or he never bobbled it. It landed softly in his hands and he was gone. And, with Amari Rodgers, there's a lack of confidence in catching it. So he's got to make that catch, focus everything on making that catch, and then get going. And, the really good returners, it hits their hands and they already got their eyes forward and they're heading in a direction where there's no guys. So I do think hands have a lot to do with it.
I feel like we really saw that with the Chicago kid who returned a great punt for, 30-something yards and then returned it for a touchdown. He already saw where he was going by the time that ball was in his hands, and that was clear even from the press box.
It's either that or you have to be super quick. I mean, if you're just super quick, you don't have to have the best hands. But if you do, it's the very best ones. Devin, I'm forgetting his name, from Chicago, Devin Hester.
Devin Hester, yeah.
That was just a clean catch and go, and he had both.
It's a lot easier said than done. Ty, I know you asked about thoughts on Crosby staying. That was something Spoon mentioned a little bit back farther in the video. So if you want to rewatch, that is in there as well. And last question from Rick. Spoon, have you ever been to Stockholm, Sweden?
I have not. I would love to go to Stockholm. I think that would be a blast. Maybe I could.
Random question, but I appreciate it.
Go do some curling while I'm out there,
Ooh.
Few people know Wisconsin's got a lot of good curling places, so I don't really need to go to Sweden, but I still would like to go to Sweden. Yes.
My neighbors are in a curling league.
Perfect.
They said they're awful, but it's so fun.
I had to cover curling once, believe it or not, in the Badger State games many years ago. And it was up in Green Bay.
Uh-huh.
So there's a curling club in Green Bay, and
Yeah.
I had no idea what the rules were. I knew nothing about it, and to this day, I should go back and look and see if how the heck I wrote a story on it, because I don't really remember much other than being in that place.
I would read that. I just know there's a broom involved, and it's so exciting to watch during the Olympics.
It is
And
cool. I was just watching it a second ago, and I'm always like, how do they get that thing so close to where it's supposed,
no,
where they need it?
too much
It's
physics
pretty
involved.
dang interesting, and I love watching them with all the brooms. Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
I'm excited tonight to watch Nathan Chen hopefully win gold. That's my thing is figure skating. So Spoon, we are going to let you go. Don't worry, guys. We'll still do these during the off season. We'll try to do at least one a week. So as news pops up, if you have any other questions, stay tuned. In the meantime, stay tuned to PackersNews.com. As we said, Tom has been all over Rick Bisaccia for the past 2 weeks. And so any and all news that you want on the new special teams coach, you can find on PackersNews.com. I know that I and Ryan Wood both have a series coming out, 2 separate series coming out over the next 2 weeks. So keep an eye out for that as well. A lot of exciting stuff during the off season. And then, of course, we will be on Aaron Rodgers watch once again. Thanks so much for joining, guys. Thanks, Spoon.
Okay, you bet. Don't forget, Thursday we'll
Yes.
find out about whether Rodgers is MVP and whether Leroy Butler made it into the Hall of Fame. So it's a big
Yes.
night,
Yeah,
February.
huge.
If Leroy makes it, I'll be doing something live with him either Thursday or probably Friday morning.
Okay.
So be sure you stay tuned for that.
Yeah, very good reminder. That'll be a fun night for Packers tomorrow night. We'll see you then, guys. Bye.